21st verse, as I've said, speaks about the creation of thought. 21, the maintenance of thought. 20, creation. 21, maintenance. And 22, the fulfillment of a thought. Having covered 21, 22, I think we have to take up 23, if I'm wrong, if I'm right. Is it 23? Or we already done 23?
Yeah, we just started, Guruji, 23.
Oh, yes.
It was recited and all like.
Oh, we already recited the verse. Okay. All right. So the 23rd verse, just for the what it's worth, the reference, can you please share that verse, ma? Let's chant once and then we'll just briefly look into it. Antavattu phalam tesham tadbhavatyalpamedhasam devan devayajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. Antavat phalam tesham. Finite is the fruit. Verily, the fruit that accrues of those of alpamedhasam, of those of small intelligence, is finite. The worshippers of the gods go to the gods. Likewise, my devotees reach me. Alpamedhasam, small intelligence. So those people with small intelligence are only worshipping the gods. And since you worship the gods, you will get what you want. You want little more power, you want little more fame, you want little more wealth, you want little more name. Whatever you want, you'll get it, he's saying. I will fulfill it. But that is of small intelligence. Don't fall into that category, for God's sake. He's saying, the gist of it is, can you dare to think big? I remember I mentioned this. You must dare to think big. And in the spiritual field, you must conceive the loftiest of goals, which is self-realization. And if you fall short of it, you will fall into the category of the alpamedhasam. You may not directly conceive the goal of realization, but you will have intermediate goals which will lead you to self-realization. That is okay. Someday you will be able to directly conceive self-realization. That's acceptable. Just because self-realization is very vague in your mind now, that doesn't mean you fall into the category of small intelligence. So that has to be clarified. So the term, let's say you are new to this journey, the very term salvation, the term moksha, the term realization is perhaps something very new to you. But you can't really gather what that is at this point. That's all right. But if you are genuinely trying to identify the relative goal, because self-realization is an absolute goal. But you must be able to conceive a relative goal which will lead you to the absolute goal. It's like an athlete. An athlete has got talent and he does put in extraordinary effort. So he competes at the the domestic circuit. He competes at the local circuit. He competes at the interstate, inter-district circuit first, then comes to the interstate, and then comes to the national level, and then comes to the international, and then comes to the Olympic level. Any sport for that matter. Just because I am currently competing at the interstate level or the national level doesn't mean I'm of a limited capacity. His goal is someday I must represent the nation in the Olympics. That is his goal. And not just participate. I want to win an Olympic gold for my nation and not for myself. Huh? It's not that thereafter, once you win a gold in a country of 1 billion people, I don't think we have a handful of gold in the history of Olympics. So when a person wins an Olympic medal, the moment they come back, every corporate industry, every government is showering you with land, with wealth, with resources, with whatnot. You are made for that whole life. Not you. Your grandchildren, great-grandchildren are taken care of. Isn't it? Have you not seen? People are given, everything comes, name, fame, following comes. What he has done? He's just got a medal for the nation. The whole country is ready to celebrate that victory of yours. But in order to get to that level, oh, I didn't even know there was someone called as Akash Chopra. Is that Akash Chopra? The fellow who won, who Chopra is this? Gaitrima? Ashish Chopra or Akash Chopra? Chopra.
Deepak.
No, that is different. Deepak Chopra he has made millions in a different way. We're not talking of that fellow.
Neeraj
With due
Chopra.
respects. Huh?
Neeraj Chopra.
Neeraj Chopra. Neeraj Chopra, what has he not got? But have any one of us heard the existence of Neeraj Chopra? We didn't even know his existence. We didn't even know that he represented India many places until he won that gold for javelin. So what amount of sacrifice he would have done to reach that level of representing a nation, not just representing, but winning the gold in just a relative sense we're talking. But he would have had that in him right from a very young age that I should reach that. Similarly, you should, being an aspirant, being a spiritual aspirant, you should not be content with anything other than self-realization. If you are, you're an Alpa Medhasam. That's all the text is saying. You would get enough recognition and name and perks, even if you reach the national level. I'm topper at the national level, but that is not what you should be content with, right? Go beyond that. All right. So the ignorant people, to put it in a very poetic way, the ignorant people would sell Christ for a few pieces of silver. And when Christ was being offered silver, the famous words of Christ, you remember what Christ said? Get thee behind me, Satan. I will have none at thy hands, he said. Get thee behind me. I am not interested in you few pieces of silver. You don't think I can be bought. I can't be interested. I'm not interested in anything but the truth. Those are the famous words of Christ. So we are the little people, the little minded are selling the divinity in them for little happiness, which they can get at the doors of their body, mind, and intellect. You want some physical, emotional, intellectual, some material joys. You're selling the divinity within you for that. Saying only Alpa Medhasam will do that, not the real wise people. So someday, the goal of self-realization will become the only purpose of your life. Nothing else will interest you. I truly pray that you all reach that state soon. That realization becomes the only purpose of your life. Nothing else interests you. You will do everything else. But when you do everything else, you will do it with a disinterested interest. Or whatever you're doing is only for the goal of realization. You put it either way, you're not wrong. Whatever you do with a disinterested interest. And you do things which will take you and remind you of the goal. Self-realization doesn't mean you will sit whole day with a jingle in your hand and say, do bhajan. That is not what having goal of realization means. It is not a monotonous. You may be doing many activities, but the only goal is, I must get there. I must get there. And I keep doing this, including this morning. Whenever I'm with myself, and I love to be with myself. Whenever I get a chance to be with yourself, I'm with myself. I revel just being with myself. And went for a cycling this morning, and close to 3.5 hours I did cycling. And all the while, I just keep telling myself, I am Atma Brahma. This individual is that self. No other thought, no other interest. So why am I doing that exercise? Only to get to the self. Because this body is a vehicle and I don't want my body to be in repair so that it doesn't help me in the journey to get there. So I'll keep my body in good repair so that it takes me to the goal. So that act of exercising is not to impress anybody, is not to talk to the town, not to make a talk of the town. It's just to do it because you have to keep yourself fit. You have to be active. So everything, annam you're eating is not, annam should not be an avenue where you indulge. Rakshasas indulge. You can't indulge. That's why you worship the food. Oh God, give me strength that I don't fall a prey to my tongue. One of the most powerful senses to control is the tongue. So you pray. Brahmarpanam. Why do you pray food? To pray that I don't fall a prey to the food. I pray that you don't fall a prey. P-R-A-Y, so that you don't fall P-R-E-Y. So you worship. When you worship something, you don't become a victim of it. That's the reason of worship. So when you worship Lakshmi, you don't develop the greed for Lakshmi. Who falls a greed for Lakshmi? Rakshasas fall, Rajasic fellows are running behind wealth. A Sattvic person, even he worships wealth, he's not a prey to wealth. He needs that wealth for his sustenance, but he doesn't fall a prey to it. In that sense, everything that you do, every action, every emotion, every thought is an oblation to the goal of realization. So what lingers all the time in the background, the backdrop of everything that you do, that realization, self-realization. And when does it all start with? It starts with Pratasmarami Hridi Samsfuradatma Tattvam Satchit Sukham Paramaham Sagatim Turiyam Yat Swapna Jagara Sushuptamaveti Nityam Tad Brahma Nishkalamaham Nacha Bhuta Sanghaha. First thing in the morning, Pratasmarami, in the early hours, you tell yourself, that Brahma, I am that Brahman, not this mere assemblage of elements. Nacha Bhuta Sangha, I am not a Sangha, I am not a mere combination of these bhutas, the space, air, fire, water, which has made me. I don't want to fall a prey to these play of the bhutas. I am not that, I am that Brahman. That kind of a reminder where you set the tone from the very beginning in the morning. And rest of the day, you're reveling and that thought reverberates. This is not possible by Alpamedasa. If you do this, you don't fall into the category of the Alpamedasa. Okay. 24. Avyaktam vyaktimapannam manyante mama buddhayaha param bhavamajanantaha mamavyayamanutamam. Avyaktam vyaktimapannam manyante mama buddhayaha param bhavamajanantaha mamavyayamanutamam. The fools, the foolish people, the fools think of me, avyaktam, vyaktim, the unmanifest, apannam, as having come to manifestation. So the fools think of me, the unmanifest, as having come to manifestation, not knowing my supreme nature. Param, bhavam, ajanantaha. Janantaha, they do not know. They don't know what? Param, bhavam. They do not know mama. They do not know my supreme nature. And what is the supreme nature? Avyayam, anuttamam. It is immutable, unsurpassed. They do not know the nature of the self, which is immutable and unsurpassed. Immutable means something which doesn't change, which is a changeless. It doesn't change. There is no birth and death to the self. Unsurpassed means there's nothing beyond it. It is the highest, the greatest, the best. You can say the bestest. Is there an English word bestest? If it is not there, we will create today one word, bestest. It's there, huh? Sanjay, is there the word bestest? Thanks, GM.
Sorry, Guru. I was just going to say, if it isn't, it is there now.
Now there is, isn't it? we have said so. So the God is the bestest, but we will use it discreetly. Otherwise, we will lose that exclusivity, no? All right. So we will use it very exclusively, but it is that which is unsurpassed. Now, what is he talking about? Any idea, Sanjay? Any guess? All of you should think independently rather than me spelling it out, you know? Any idea what? In fact, he's being very, very, very rare. You find in the Gita, very, very rare you find in the Shastras. These men are very direct. And these are one of these, this section of the text, in fact, is very critical. He's very hard at those who don't fit into, don't toe the line, as it were. You don't fall into the category. He just says, you fellows are, you know, deluded, devoid of wisdom, the ignorant. He just dismisses all. But this particular verse, he's actually attacking a section of practitioners. In fact, not a section, the vast majority of practitioners. So what is he trying to say, Sanjay?
So the understanding here is those that try and encapsulate this infinite Brahman into a form, into whether that's, you know, not to just the easiest example is to the form of Krishna Bhagwan, and just believe that that is it. that there's nothing beyond. That's the misunderstanding of that devotee.
I'm sorry, Sanjay, we just lost you.
Sorry, Guru.
Oh, yes.
It's the misunderstanding of the devotee that it's that form is the ultimate, that is the final manifestation of the infinite, which is not there. But then as you just flashed it on the screen, it felt to me that the same can be described as the self, that we believe that this manifestation of the self, this body, is the ultimate. But we don't go beyond to say that, no, we are the ultimate Atman, the unsurpassable, the bestest. But we limit ourselves to just being Sanjay. And that's the fall that does that.
That's absolutely right. I think you hit the nail on the head. In fact, precisely, he's talking about that large section of the spiritual practitioners who give the unmanifest self a manifested form and confine it to that form alone. And he calls them the foolish people. And who is saying it? Lord Krishna himself is saying. And what is the sad reality of that? People have made Krishna himself as an ultimate embodiment of reality and got stuck to that form, thereby not realizing the true grandeur of what that self is. And he's also attacking those people who worship, who have a personal God, who believe in a personal God, and who hold on to that form, believing that is everything. One sweeping statement, he just dismisses it off. Ushama, it's okay. You feel very sad. I feel very sad looking at you. Don't feel so sad. This is better. That smile is much better, ma.
I was just thinking of the various people who believe in different kinds of things.
It's not being, we're not being critical. We're not, we're not being arrogant when we say that. We are trying to understand what I say. So I think it just belittles the whole grandeur, as he says, it's unsurpassed. And what are we doing it? We're just belittling,
limiting
it. Limiting it. We're just trying to make a joke of it, isn't it?
Exactly.
And I would not take names of people or those who practice this, because then it becomes a direct attack, and I don't want to. And it's not the spirit of our learning, is not to attack anybody. It's to understand that I don't fall into that trap. That's all. Isn't it? Yes. And he's also thanks, man. So two things I've said. One is those who believe the unmanifest has a manifestation, which is a particular form. And also those people who believe a personal God and glorify that to be the reality. You're limiting that, which is also extendable to the thought that there are human incarnations of God. One sweeping statement, he just says, fools believe in human incarnations and God. The truth of the matter is the supreme self cannot be incarnated, cannot be manifested. And if somebody out there, many people out there who go about claiming, I am an incarnation of so-and-so, Is it? That's it. And they do all kinds of gimmicks, all kinds of magic, which a magician on stage can do. Any magician can do many things on stage. A child will get, how did he produce a pigeon out of a hat? And as a kid, if you sat in a magic show, it was something which baffled your little intellect. You couldn't understand, how did the magician on stage, he brought out a pigeon out of a hat. How could he cut that man into two and separate the two? Wow. There are people in the spiritual field claiming themselves to be incarnations of God and doing all kinds of things to mesmerize the spiritual ignoramuses, the masses. The fools are the majority. The wise are singular. God is unmanifest. Supreme Being does not manifest. It doesn't have a form. It is imperceptible. It can't be perceived, it can't be felt, it can't be comprehended. That is God. And you bring it down to a limited perspective, it's wrong. Annapurnama, it is not what you are saying. Is it, as you say, can you explain yourself? What is it? What do you mean by the stage in spiritual evolution?
Hari Om Guruji.
Hari Om.
Just my this thing is in our faith we have this worshipping of forms, but is it from maybe we should maybe the purpose is to get one involved in the practices with the ultimate understanding that the supreme truth is unsurpassed, infinite, and doesn't have a form or a guna like that. I mean, so it is maybe is it that foolish? That's what I was wondering.
I don't understand, ma. Sorry.
No, worshipping forms, doing puja or any spiritual practices, is it that foolish? Because I understood, all along, everybody, most of us go to temples, do the same thing, offer flowers and worship forms. But I mean, it's still going on. Every day we do that. We worship.
Even I did that before class.
No, but maybe with the ultimate.
Because the lamp you see, the flowers you see, I also did that. Pick the choicest of flowers and you offer it with devotion. Make sure the lamp is well lit and you do it with devotion. So we are not saying anything wrong in doing that. No.
So maybe
there's nothing wrong in that.
Yes. Maybe the Shastras are saying to, I mean, have laid out these practices to get us involved with our mind and thoughts in one focus. When we see the form and offer flowers and do other practices, maybe our mind will be focused on one thing. But maybe the ultimate goal is to make us understand that, I mean, that the ultimate truth, the supreme truth is, we should understand that it is without form, without gunas, and unsurpassed.
Ultimately. So unless and until that thought that it is beyond it is instilled, you will just get stuck to it, isn't it? So this thought that God is way beyond these forms which I'm holding on to, if that idea is not not even clarify. If that idea doesn't even prevail in our understanding, what makes you believe that you will not be attached to what you're doing? Everything, as Rajima rightly has put it, she said that everything, as we understand, is a means. Everything is a means in life. But when you don't understand that attunement to the highest, then it becomes an end. And sadly, the reality is it has become an end in itself. Therefore, a guru comes out hard into your life, drilling into your minds. Remember, it is not it. Go beyond it. Get out of it. Wake up, awake, rise. The words of the Shastras, the masters constantly drill into the minds that don't limit yourself to what you're holding on to. This is not it. It is only the exterior. There's something beyond it.
Thank you, Guruji.
Right, ma'am. Gemma, what is it that you're trying to say? Where are you? Are you there? Oh.
Hari Om Guruji.
Yes,
What I mean is be it Sai Baba or Ramana Maharshi or Mahapariva, people give them the status of a god and start worshipping the realized souls as God. God is unmanifest, so people see them as God, and that's how this culture has started come to stay. That's what I mean, Guruji. Even Mahapariva performed so many miracles, but he never proclaimed that I am the God. But people have elevated him to the level of God because he's a realized soul. That's what I'm trying to say, Guruji.
No, yes, no, and, I understood it rightly. So what you said, see, it is not for you and me to sit in judgment who is realized, who is not realized. Just because you uphold or you glorify a man doesn't make him any more realized, or if you disregard or unknown, you don't know their stature, doesn't make it any less, doesn't make them any less. But to go and just hold on to a form, not realizing that that state these great men have attained is very much your birthright as well. What these great masters have achieved is that they have reached that state of realization. They have reached that exclusive state, but it doesn't mean it is only limited to them. That doesn't mean our devotion to them or our respect for them is any less, but to just confine it to a form and holding on to a form has a limited relevance in your spiritual growth. If I hold on to the portrait of my guru and keep hugging and kissing it, is it going to make me any more spiritual? People are doing it. Not just passport size photo, it's bigger than life photo they have. You must practice what they said, not just worship their forms. It's just the emphasis on the wrong side. Drawing inspiration from these men, you and I should roar the truth that, what is the truth that you got to roar? Right now, all of you roar. Let there be some noise. The truth, Padriji, please roar. Huh? Your whole vicinity in Yapral should hear you. The truth you got to roar is just say, Aham Brahmasmi. Sir, I only barely could hear. Forget whole Yapral.
My wife complains that I speak too loudly, so I have to be careful.
No, that is a practical problem. That's okay. So please go out and make some noise so that she doesn't hear and rest of them hear. Then if you make some noise, you might be out of a meal, but you're most welcome home. That's no problem. Sir, if you are deprived of a meal or two, by roaring the truth, Aham Brahmasmi, it's worth it, sir. You please come home. But still roar the truth. Let's all roar the truth. Aham Brahmasmi. I am that Brahman. I am that truth. And these men remind us of the goal you have forgotten and not aspiring. That's all their purpose is. It is not to put up their life-size portraits and hug the pictures and kiss the pictures and realize and limit them to that form, thinking God is that form. It is my foolishness to limit anyone to a particular form. They become symbols. A guru is only a symbol of the truth. Guru is not going to do any more than just remind you of the truth. You got to use it as a symbol to get there. Always, don't we learn that Guru is a signpost? Isn't it? Guides you, points you, directs you to the truth. In fact, why this is said, Annapurnama, when you asked, I wanted to say this. I'll ask Ramji to clarify this. Not growing. When you get stuck to something and there is no growth, tantamounts to tamas. When there is no growth, it is tamas. It's like when the water doesn't flow and stagnates, it smells foul, isn't it? Exactly when you spiritually don't grow and you stagnate, it's tamas. And in science, Ramji, can you please give me the definition in your own way? You can explain what is the law of inertia.
Namaste, Guruji. So, law of inertia, basically Newton's first law, it says that, again, not going into Newton's laws, but generally, law of inertia means that you would like to stay where you are. Means you resist movement, you resist change.
You resist change. You know what I noted, Ramji, that 1.5 hours I spoke, Harishji was not seen. Suddenly I spoke of science, he appeared.
Harish is a pseudo-scientist, Guruji. Harish is a technologist. I am a scientist.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, that was just
all those technical terms I don't follow, sir. My alpa buddhi, my little intellect only follows little things. All those too complicated terms I can't follow. But
those who do engineering, particularly from IITs, those who do engineering, particularly from IITs, are all technologists.
Okay, sir.
And those who study science, like agriculture, are scientists.
Right, sir.
Yeah.
Now you brought it down to our level, sir. That's the reason we have given you the title of, whatever the title we have conferred to you. But I'm amazed. How come 1.5 hours he was not seen? Suddenly, when I spoke of law of inertia, he appeared. Maybe I should have mentioned this a little earlier, Never mind, Okay. Now, the point rightly said, law of inertia talks an object will remain at rest, will continue to remain in rest unless and until external force is acted upon. Correct. And the same thing is an object will continue to be in motion unless and until an external force is acted upon. The point to note there is an object either will remain at rest or in motion until an external force is acted on it. That is law of inertia. which is nothing but tamas. Now what we are saying, you will continue to do your spiritual practices in a particular way, believing that is everything, until another force comes and knocks at you and says, man, what you're doing is wrong. Move another way. And that is why you need this knowledge, the knowledge of the highest order, and it comes with force, comes with a vehement declaration, the truths, so that it gives you a jerk to your path, to the path you're taken, and redirects you to the right, gives you a proper direction. Otherwise, an object will remain in motion until a force is acted upon. So not changing your practices is also tamas. Not acting also is tamas. Not changing your views and your approaches also is tamas. Oh, I have been doing this for the past, I don't know how many years, donkeys years I've been doing. Why should I change now? Not wanting to change also is tamas. Am I right, Ramji?
Yes, sir. But the difficulty, Guruji, is that to make people stay in the tamasic stage is easy. And and that is where actually the difficulty comes, that if you, at a mass level, you can make people get attached to something very easily. But if you have to detach them from that, you have to work at individual level. You can't work at the mass level. Though that is what is called the problems of scaling up in management, we call it. So you can do this at individual level, but when you have to scale it up to mass level, it is very difficult to make people detached. I mean, we know of the history where we went to the extremes like Vaishnavites and Shaivites fighting each other type of a thing. And today we still have, the division starts at religion level, and within each religion also there are different gods and deities and things like that. So you keep fighting because our human nature is to find methods of dividing ourselves. Inventing methods of dividing ourselves. So I think that is where we actually fall prey to this kind of things.
So as always, you have aptly summarized, you have aptly said where we stand, but it also reiterates the need that this knowledge has to be, it can't be given out at the mass scale. It has, but indeed it has to be calibrated to the needs of the people.
Exactly.
It has to be calibrated. It can't be a standard process for everybody at large. You know?
Exactly.
You know, like any good takes a lot of effort. You know, so, but if this exercise of this of this knowledge of this satsang, if it has impacted all of you here, you all become ambassadors of this knowledge. Is that many more people thinking in the sense what the Gita is saying, what the Shastras are telling us. So you become role models, leaders, examples, so that you impact your societies and communities. And that's how we can impact the society at large. Because if I make any noise, my life is at risk, sir, beyond what I'm making here. So please, I am little selfish there, sir. But it is so profound, so profound. I tell you, every word of it is so deeply meaningful. You got to seriously pause and examine all what we have learned. All right. I will have to, I'm afraid I will leave it at that. Thank you, Ramji. I think you have all been informed through the channel where we often communicate to the group. Please note, those of you who have not been, that information hasn't come in your way, the next classes, that is the Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, we will not be having classes because I am not available. So please take a note, and we will come back to the Sunday class a fortnight from now, next year. Okay. Thank you. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.